It's time for the Uncommon Wealth bonus content.
Hello, everybody. This is Philip Ramsey with the Uncommon Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, and so is
Aaron Cramer.
You gotta love that when I throw it up a little bit. All right, here we go. So we're doing a bonus recap for Cramer and Associates, Dan and Robert. Wow, that was really interesting to me.
Dude, that was fun. I think I got goosebumps like 6 times.
Wow. I don't know if I ever got goosebumps, but I love the transition from how Dale and George started from absolutely nothing. You have no idea.
Yeah,
that was
Delmer,
loved it.
Delmer, Dale, and George, and Don.
Okay.
So there's 4 of them. I know we didn't get into that, but
no, we didn't.
Yeah.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
So because there's 5 brothers.
Okay.
And 4 of the brothers
started
Cramer Associates.
It wasn't Cramer Associates. Cramer Brothers.
Cramer Brothers, and it changed. I only remember it as Cramer Associates, but yeah, we basically talked about Delmer, which is Robert's dad.
Yep, Del.
And then Delmer, because Dale, and then there's Delmer.
Okay, so Delmer.
Yep, and then George, which is my grandpa, and be Dan's dad.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. At the end of the day, I love when somebody creates something from nothing.
Yeah.
And then you can see it second generation happening now. Seems like they're thriving.
Yeah, so good.
And then I'm going to just fast forward, just high level. And then now they're in the point where they're kind of transitioning to the next generation.
Yeah.
Holy buckets. But kudos to them for seeing the writing on the wall and seeing the 2 fathers letting go of that responsibility earlier than they probably wanted to.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I can't tell you how hard that's going to be when you and I are going to be looking at the next generation, Uncommon Wealth, and be like, I hope that they run it.
Take over your baby.
Yes, because I think the thought is I want them to run it the same way I do. But really, you don't want that. I want you to run this in a different way so that it takes on a new life and it can breathe in more. But like they said, the vision and the character and all the core values that we've started, it never changes.
Yeah. I think it's like the originals, the OGs. I think it's please care as much as we care. Because, we talked about, boys from Missouri grew up in the Depression.
Yep.
I remember hearing stories about my grandpa walking to school with no shoes in the winter time, all that stuff. And then they built up a really good company that made a really good living for their families.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, and it's sad that they don't know the history behind the union to the employee owned, but that had to be scary.
Yeah.
Scary because the unions were so powerful at that time. And then transitioning just to do something uncommon. They're just a different path.
Yeah.
Had to be scary.
Oh my gosh.
But they did it.
Yeah. I know I'm biased because they're my family, but I just I would be so scared to be in front of my grandpa. And my grandpa, he had said, George had said one of his brothers was actually more athletic than him. And so, my grandpa was pretty athletic playing football in Mizzou. But those are some boys I would not want to tussle with. But you're dealing with the union, totally different story. I'm just being biased.
Right. No, that's good. And so I think that's kind of the heart of they're going to do whatever is the best for the client and their employees.
Yeah.
And then they made it a stock what is it? ESOP. Yep. Employee stock option program, where now the employees truly do have ownership because they have some ownership, and every year they can benefit from that. It seems like that was such the right decision, but I just wanted to take a time. That wasn't an easy decision, by any stretch.
Yeah,
and there had to have been a couple years where they were just holding their breath, are we doing the right thing? Now he did talk about in 2020 or 2000 and 2007, was their hype time. They had a huge rush of business. Things were going well, so that had to help, especially the transition for at least Robert and Dan to think okay, we've done this. And for me, it was really cool to see them both edifying each other and the sacrifices they both made to build the company, Cramer and Associates, to what they are today. That was really neat to me to see. And you probably know a little bit more of the dynamics than I do, but I thought it was...
it's super cool to see. And this is where when I say I got goosebumps, because my dad worked for the business, and I remember a little bit of it, but by the time he was done working for the business, I was still pretty young. but like hearing stories, knowing stories, and then having them sit in here is just like super cool because they are like the superheroes or the celebrities of our household because like they're just great men. They've built a company, like they took what they were given and they built it even bigger.
Yeah, they're definitely men of integrity.
Yeah.
And one example you can say, I mean, they're both married to the same spouse that they did and they started. I mean,
but like, so that's one of the key takeaways is like, yes, same spouse, but like, dude, you can't call your wife at night and say goodnight.
that was really interesting to me to talk through that because I think in our generation or like where we're at now, we can't even remember the times before phones.
Yeah.
And that was a huge reality for them. I think I got my first phone like right out of college, but there was never a time where, you know, like, so I feel like a cell phone error.
Yeah.
They weren't. And so to think about driving 15 minutes to get to a payphone and then trying to figure out where somebody's at to talk through an issue that they have, like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level.
I know I didn't want to go there, but like in the sense of this example, but dude, like we just felt it a month and a half ago when I was going to drive to Dubuque and I forgot my cell phone at my house.
Yes.
And we we're going to meet at Come and Go so you give me some folders.
Yes.
Can't tell you.
Yes. That's interesting.
You know, because I didn't have my cell phone. So
That's
it's
so
like,
interesting.
It's so fascinating to me. But like to think that like, I know that in my younger time starting my practice, I would step out, like I'd be at networking events or I'd be somewhere at an event and I would step away to have a phone call with my wife, tell her good night, and also tell my daughter good night. You know?
Yeah, they didn't have that.
They had none of that.
All right.
Like I really like, found a lot in that I could do that just quickly and keep working.
Right.
You know, they couldn't do that though.
Right. Okay, so then we asked him, hey, what would you talk about your younger self? I got a lot out of that. I love how Dan was like, I'm going to run that back. But okay, so the first thing is like, I love his response. His first response is like, I don't have any regrets.
Dude, I love that too.
No regrets. That I feel like is a very cool testimony of like his life. Like, I don't really have that many things. Again, like the hard things have maybe created who I am today, which I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't through the trials. But then he comes back and saying like, I wish I could be edifying and more encouraging to people. I wish I would have learned that sooner. And him recognizing his past of being a Depression era kid growing up, that was fascinating to me because we all have our own history that kind of produces who we are today. And so, talk about what Robert's like. Kind of.
Yeah, Robert's like you can tell like he is a very analytical, like behind the scenes, picking things, and so it's fun to see how he does things. And like he's another very biblical man that like stays his path,
right?
And with the success that he's had, like he proves what it is. I remember talking to him a long time ago about the ESOP and how proud he was to be able to do that for the guys and just to be able to give back to a lot of these guys. And it was just like, it was very heartwarming to think, oh man, like you are such a giving guy.
Right.
And then that his dad, Delmer really gave him that path.
That's right. I love the culture that they've built at Cramer and Associates. That's not an easy culture to create. And I think Dan said it the best. It's like, well, you have to walk the walk in order to create this culture. You got to work hard. You have to be the tip of the spear. You can't just like talk about it, hope that people figure it out. They won't.
I mean, to help our listeners like really paint the vision, like if you know construction workers, it's not like you're working with like the cream of the crop of like people. Like these are guys that probably like to party a little bit. They're willing to work on a hot bridge deck all day.
Definitely need to win people's respect in that industry.
And for them both to do that, like you can tell with Robert, he's very like cool, calm, and collected.
Right.
Like probably very easy, like a big listener. You know, you can always tell when I talk to him, he just sits there and listens, and he's genuinely listening.
Right. So I hope our listeners stayed through that. I wish I would have done a little bit better job of like, hey, what is your business at first? Hey, it's bridge building, things like that. But it was fascinating for me at the end to talk through those two bridge examples and have them like dissect it of what happened. It was like getting the play-by-play by like a NFL coach on what happened to another team that fell apart. It was just cool for me. And then also just realized like, man, we owe a lot of our safety to people we've never met before.
Yeah. I know people don't realize that's one of the most dangerous jobs, bridge building. Like,
oh yeah. For everybody involved, the people who are building and the people who are then driving off.
Yeah. My brother, his right hand, somebody on his crew died.
Oh, wow.
on his watch.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
I know, like, you hear about it, then you're around, like, you're on the highways, people going 70, 80 miles an hour
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Right.
it's dangerous. But, yeah, it's a crazy career, but to see them do that, the stuff that they have is
Yeah.
cool. And then I remember I was gonna share this, but I didn't. But because I know I shared that Dan's super competitive,
Yeah.
and I'm also a little competitive.
Yeah.
And I worked one summer on the bridge decks.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And there's this big machine during an overlay when you're pouring concrete to, like, after you fix the bridge, there's a big machine. Someone stands at the top with all the concrete bags, and you break them and you keep pouring them in. You got to go as fast to keep it up with the concrete being made.
Okay.
Right. And I'm like a 19-year-old guy, and I'm about to go off to wrestle in college, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah. I'm in shape.
I'm in shape. I can do this.
Yeah.
Which at this time, I realized this is totally different shape, because like my first week working on the bridge deck, there were some tears that night.
Wow.
Because you're cramping up, carrying steel and tying steel all day. But anyways, I remember my Uncle Dan, he jumped up next to me. He's like, you got to speed it up. And he started showing me how fast you got to go. And I'm like, this old man is kicking my butt.
Wow. That's crazy.
He moved so fast, and I was like, my blood was boiling in competitiveness.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to get this. But I still don't think I could keep up with him.
That's cool. Well, I love the story. I love their perspective. I love that they have that undertone of faith, even though they don't put it on the wall.
Yeah.
Everything about that interview I thought was awesome, even to the point where, like, what a cool way to land the plane on the runway of, like, now we're transitioning as well.
Yeah.
So wish you guys the best of luck. We're huge fans.
Big fans.
Thanks for instilling some of your wisdom to us here at the Uncommon Well podcast. So you've been listening to your favorite show, my favorite show, and my parents' favorite show. I've been your host, Philip Ramsey.
And Aaron Cramer.
Till next time, thanks for listening.